Hey guys, it's Zach back with another review, this time of the Monsgeek M1V5 TMR, a boast technology that is distinctly not Hall effect, but in the end performs the same functions you know like rapid trigger, SOCD, and very low adjustable actuation. It also has a fully aluminum case and a slightly different keycap profile, OEM, that I had not before tried. But before we get into the review, let me tell you, this keyboard is special. I'm going to straight up tell you, I think it deserves a spot on your desk. Let's find out why. So here we have it, the Monsgeek M1V5 TMR, fully assembled, ball catch system, fully aluminum, very hefty. I'm going to get a workout holding this thing up for the duration of this review. Gradient keycaps here from black to white, typeface on the side, and this is again using tunneling magnetoresistance TMR as opposed to Hall effect, which I won't pretend to understand at a very deep level, but we can hit the highlights here. And this is from Monsgeek's site directly, but TMR claims higher sensitivity, especially for small magnetic fields, and does offer more precision and higher resolution. This I know to be true. The technology is more complex and sophisticated, so I do know that the sensors for TMR are more expensive per sensor than Hall effect, so you probably will not see budget TMR boards very often, and that's listed here. More expensive due to complex fabrication as well. Typically employed in advanced sensors and hard drives, as well as high-end switches. They're contactless just like HE, but they're apparently also more stable under various conditions, like different temperatures and calibration. I believe it's also a key reason that this keyboard can be MagMech, so you can have magnetic switches, and I will note, there is no such thing as a Hall effect switch. There are Hall effect sensors that interact with magnetic switches. There are TMR sensors that interact with magnetic switches. There are no Hall effect specific switches. That also allows for mechanical switches. So you can put a mechanical or a Hall effect switch. See, even I do it. You can put a mechanical or a magnetic switch in any slot in this keyboard and it will just work, which is awesome. Compatible with both 3 and 5 pin magnetic switches. Should you want to do that, it is very easy. Ball catch system, you just press down, knob pops off, and we're done. Go to town. Just like that, the faceplate's gone. You can see the inside of the keyboard here. And let's pop off one of these keycaps. This video is all off my normal order, but who cares? For what it's worth, these are OEM profile keycaps. They are not cherry profile keycaps, so they are a little bit taller, and it might take you a little bit to get adjusted, but I will tell you, I type more accurately at this keyboard than any other keyboard that I've used, and I absolutely do love the feel of it, so it was not really a problem for me. You can get two different available switches right now, the Astro A magnetics and the Astro Links. Monsgeek recommended these Astro Link magnetic switches, and I absolutely love them. Beside the awesome aesthetic here, absurdly stable. Like, look, there's virtually no wobble here on the stem, and I would refer to the sound as very thocky in a nicely refined way. One of my favorite sounds I've experienced on a keyboard yet. And then as you can see with that ball catch system, you can also just pop this right up here. I'll be careful with the ribbon. There are two 4,000 milliamp hour batteries to give you 8,000 milliamp hours of total battery power. The battery on this thing in wireless mode lasts quite a long time, which is also pretty awesome. I will say the one odd thing here, switch to toggle wireless mode is found under the cap box key, so that's not very convenient. It's not a big deal because, I mean, personally, I only use keyboards in wired mode anyway, and I'm assuming you'll probably use this in wired for the most part, but if you do go wireless and it dies and you want to plug it in, you may need to go here and flip that switch. And then under the spacebar here, you can see very nicely lubed triple stabilizers, and then we have some considerations here for sound under the spacebar, one of the least offensive spacebar sounds that I've heard in recent memory, which I very much appreciate. As I reassemble this, you may be thinking to yourself, wow, Daz, you're really spending a lot of time on this keyboard, going a little bit more in depth, and like I said, that's for a good reason. This is, to date, my favorite keyboard that I have ever tried. This is my main. If I've been saying Jet 75, I really meant Jet 75 was my favorite keyboard under $100. This is my favorite keyboard. End of story. And a quick disclaimer, two quick disclaimers actually. Yes, I have too many aluminum keyboards and I scuffed this. This is my fault. The keyboard came fine. And secondly, this was sent out to me for review by Monsgeek. That did not affect my thoughts or opinions at all. I've actually been using this for months and nothing has come close to taking me off of maining this keyboard. But let's get back to the review. Obviously, build quality. There's not going to be flex. This is full aluminum. It's very heavy. Let's grab a weight. This thing comes in at a preposterous 1,860 grams, which translates to 4 pounds, 1.6 ounces, up there with the heaviest keyboards that I've had, built like an absolute freaking tank, and it feels amazing. I apologize for how much I'm shilling this keyboard. I just shill things that I love, and I love this keyboard, so I'm going to keep shilling it for the whole video. One thing that I've not mentioned yet is I'm not going to hit the product page here. This thing has all the low specs you would expect. 0.001 millimeter rapid trigger, 8K hertz, snap key, WebDriver, TMR, sensors obviously, DKS, blah, 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 all the things you'd want. These Astrolinks have an initial force of 36 plus or minus 5 GF, total travel of 3.4 millimeters. But the other thing I wanted to mention is this version of the keyboard does come in at $140, which is more than the standard budget sort of niche that I cover. But honestly, if you think about the cost of a Wooting or any custom keyboards for how good this feels out of the box, $140 really isn't too terrible, and you can get it on Amazon. I'm not going to pretend that it's cheap by any means, and I am privileged for having this review unit. Let's plug it in. I also love this central plug here. Plugs all the way on the left. Just throw off my desktop setup. Also, interesting, this cable's definitely not very durable. Gonna need to replace that. Anyway, here's the lighting on the keyboard. As you can see here, this is max brightness on the keyboard, and the lighting is not super bright. This is the only downside that I have found on this keyboard. It does look fine, but I will say with the side printed keycaps and the slightly less powerful RGB, I did occasionally find myself checking visually for what key I was pressing with a slightly different height at first until I got really comfortable with this keyboard. So the RGB, a definite weak point. I do wish it were a lot brighter so it would illuminate these keycaps a bit more, but I've gotten past that for the performance. If you're a lighting guy, this is not for you. One more note here, this red light here on the bottom just signifies that the batteries are charging and that are not at full power. For a second I thought this was broken and it was stuck only on red, but it turns out that's just a charging indicator. And with that, let's hit a sound test. As you may have heard there, I would classify this sound as sort of stockier with like an essence of clack there. It's a very satisfying sound. It's not too high-pitched in any way. It's also not overly deep. It's just a very refined, solid, in my opinion, thock-leaning sound. I also find the typing feel on this to be very satisfying. If you press all the way down here, there is a slight bit of give on the gasket mount and the keyboard. There's not too much give. It's sort of like a perfect little middle ground there. I have done typing tests extensively on a few keyboards, and for some reason, and Phalanges had this as well when he was here, this is just the most accurate keyboard I was typing on. I'm not really sure why. Potentially the slightly larger profile of the keycaps, maybe just the way the keyboard feels, but I type on it very well. Maybe even better than I game, but that's a personal issue. We will, however, now jump into the software. And this software is a classic case of the desktop software just being wrapped into a web browser, but that's awesome because then you don't have to download any software or feel sketched about it on your desktop. We have seen this software before, and it is, once again, not my favorite, but it gets the job done. You can go in here to your light settings. As you can see, it was not very bright, but I do have it on the brightest setting with the lowest speed. You can also set your macros and change the function of keys, but we're here for the, not Hall effect, but TMR settings here, the rapid trigger, the actuation, and that's under this main menu here. You can also remap, but going to custom actuation, I had dropped this board back into like sort of a typing mode, so I don't have the actuation or rapid trigger cranked up right now, but I can do that on the WASD keys here. You can set your actuation down to 0.1, which is plenty low for me. No issues there with responsiveness that I found on this keyboard. Then you can flip on that continuous rapid trigger, drop it down to 0.01. No egregious numbers, again, with 0.01 and 0.1 actuation. I did not really see any accidental key presses, still confirm that. I did not mess with the dead zones, I left them as they were. With these settings, I found the keyboard to perform exactly as I wanted to. If I wasn't touching the key, there was no actuation. If I breathed on the key, there was no actuation. But at the slightest movement of the key, it did register my actuation, unlike the problem that I saw on the Yunzi keyboard. So this is exactly how I want a very sensitive, but not overly sensitive, magnetic switch implementation to be. Beyond this, of course, they do have some presettings for the switches, or rather some of the more popular switches that are out there. So you switch to one of these and want to recalibrate. There's also DKS, mod tap, and toggle key here. And then, of course, we also have SOCD. I unset this before the video, but you can choose your two keys here. And that's about all for this firmware. It's just a web skin version of the desktop firmware, but the fact that it's in the web is awesome, and it has all the settings that you would need. Down to my overall impressions of this board, I've not had my feelings on this board throughout the video. It is straight up my favorite keyboard that I have tried of all time. Once you try aluminum case keyboards, it's hard to sort of feel like you want to main a different keyboard because they feel so premium. I do really enjoy the profile of these keycaps being slightly different from Cherry after some getting used to it. And as you can see here, the lighting isn't that lackluster. It's just, yeah, it is. Never mind. I just looked at it in person. It's pretty dull. That's the main drawback of the board, but I love the 75% layout. Love the knob here. No screen, no problem. The switches are perfectly responsive with the software and the way I want them to be. Very, very stable here. Almost no wobble at all on the keycaps here with how nicely boxed those stems are. I can't say that I felt a performance difference between Hall effect and TMR, but I know there are benefits there under the hood in theory. When it comes down to it, realistically, get Hall effect, get TMR. At this point, it's going to perform the same. I don't think you'll see any tangible benefit in game, at least at this point, going with a TMR keyboard over Hall effect. But if it makes you sleep better at night, feel free to think that that's making you better in game. I still do think it's a pretty cool feature, and the fact that you can drop mechanical switches in any socket on this keyboard is pretty sick, as well as the easy ball catch mod ability to open up the keyboard. That pretty much sums it up for my thoughts here on the Monsgeek M1 M1V5 TMR, what a name. There are many different slight variations of that name for not fully assembled versions of this keyboard, but this will be my main going forward, unless something should dethrone it. I do have a custom keyboard build coming in, so we'll see how that compares to this. Feels good in every aspect, it performs exactly how I want it to, and yeah, that's that. Please subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video. Follow me on X at DasherZach, and check out my Discord server as well, link in the description. Feel free to also check out the Mousecast podcast, and with that, we'll see you.